weekly Wednesday office hours. Today is October 1st, and this is our chance to kind of let you ask questions, get feedback, get help and assistance with documents or anything accessibility that you might have questions about. And so I'm going to go ahead and open it up and see if any of you have a document you want to share, something you want to talk about. One thing I thought we might do a little review on today, if folks don't have other questions, and obviously if you do, feel free to speak up. I feel like the last, I don't know, month or so, we've had a few questions about PDF forms. And I know our forms training was quite a while ago. And so thought we might do a little bit of review of just kind of the steps and the order of things for forms, because the order is something that can have an effect on the final document, but also just doing things in the right order will make your life a lot easier. So if there are no other questions right now, let's do a quick look at a form here. And I'm just going to share the one that we used in our training back, I don't remember when, pretty many months ago. Oops. Okay. So this is just kind of a generic form that we used in our training. There we go. Sorry. And so let's just kind of go through the steps to kind of remember the order of things and how to make it as kind of streamlined and straightforward as possible. So when we start with a document, this was created in Word, could be somewhere else, but this one came over from Word. We saved it as accessible PDF, just like we would do, or save as Adobe PDF, just like we would do with any Word document when we're converting it. And what we've got here are just kind of like placeholders for the form fields. So you can see there are kind of circles where the radio buttons go. There are check boxes where the check marks go. There are underlines where text needs to be filled in, etc. So we got our headings in here. We've got the text that we need. We've got kind of these placeholders, but that's all we do in Word, and then we convert it to PDF. And the very first step, once you have converted from Word to PDF, is the same as always, and that is to run the checker and remediate the document. So I think this one's already remediated. So I've got, I passed my checker. I can double check my reading order here to make sure that everything is as it should be. And remediate the document just like you would with any document, regardless of whether it's a form or not. So once the document is completely done, remediated, you've got the nice clean checker here, then the next step is to add the form fields to the document. And so I'm going to do that using the tools over here. There's a prepare form tool. And I've got a couple choices. I can automatically detect where form fields go. That's the default, and that's usually what you're going to want to do. It will do its best to see where it thinks, oh, that looks like a checkbox should go there. That looks like maybe a text box. It's not going to get it perfectly right, but it's a good start and might make it a little bit easier. We can modify, add, or delete form fields as needed. So I'm going to go ahead and just click start, and it's going to run through its process, and you can see that it's added some form fields to the document. It's also opened this prepare form toolbar here at the top, and on the right I've got a new side panel here that shows me page by page the form fields. And what I'm seeing here is the name of those form fields. And I've got a couple options with how I see them right now. By default, I'm viewing them in tab order, which is going to be important. So we'll kind of come back to that. But let's look at what it did here and see if we've got the right form fields and how to modify them and make sure that they're accessible. So again, step one, remediate the document. Step two is to add the form fields, add those tooltips. Those are important for accessibility, and check that tab order. So we're going to do those things now. So it looks like what I've got right now, and I'm going to zoom in pretty far here so we can see better. It looks like I've got some radio buttons, and you can kind of tell they're radio buttons if you look over here on the right. It's a group. They're the answers, the yes and no, are under the question. They're grouped together. And so those radio buttons are attached to one another. And that means if you check one radio button, you can't check the other one. You can only have one or the other on, right? You can't choose multiples when we have radio buttons. And that makes sense here because my answers are yes or no. I don't have any ambiguity. You can't be both yes and no. So radio button is the correct mode of interaction, the correct type of form field that I want here. And if I look at the properties for this first radio button, you can see that it has a name, and then it's automatically pulled that name into the tooltip. And that's fine. It looks pretty good. It's missing the punctuation. I'm just going to add to the tooltip the question mark. Remember, the name is programmatic and behind the scenes. The user doesn't see that. So we don't really care what the name is. If you have a form that has lots and lots of form fields, then I think it's helpful to use some kind of naming system. Like I might do, this is page 1, field 1, P1, F1. That's kind of a little shorthand that I like to use if I have a lot of form fields. And the main reason I like to use that is if you look over here in the right at the end, when I'm making sure these are in the correct tab order, sometimes it's easier to do when I can just put them in numerical order instead of having to look at the words and try to understand what those are. Unfortunately, I can't make things larger here. I can scroll over, but if you have long names, it can get kind of difficult to keep track of what's what. So that's a preference, but I'm just going to go ahead and change that there. So I've got a name, and this is the name for the group of form fields. As you can see, it changed the group name. And then the tooltip goes with that group. And I've got the question, are you a citizen in the United States? I've got the normal punctuation there. And for a radio button, I need to go into the options and make sure that I have the right radio button choice. So this is the individual label for the radio button. So I've got the group name, kind of the question, and then the individual radio buttons label goes here in the radio button choice. So, I can do things with the appearance and the position and that kind of stuff. That's all fine. That just helps the way it looks. But for accessibility purposes here, we need to make sure that we've got a tooltip, and in the case of a radio button, the choice name as well. And I'm going to take a look here at the next radio button in the group. And again, on my general tab, I'm going to give it the same name. So this is tying it together. When they have the same name, they're part of the same group. And you can see when I do that, it automatically, and maybe you saw, maybe you didn't, but it automatically matched the tooltip that already exists for this name. It pulled it in. You can see that question mark is there, whereas it wasn't before. And again, I do need to go to options. It looks like it figured it out that my answer is no, so that's good. Everything looks great there. And if you look over in the side, you can see now I've got my group name, my programmatic name, and then I've got the radio button choice name showing here, and that shows as a group. So I'm just going to do the same thing for the second radio button group here. Again, I'm going to start on the general tab, and I'm going to change that to P1F2. And again, it looks like it pulled over the text except for the question mark, so I'm just going to add that there. And in options, it says yes to, but I do not need that. I'm just going to say plain yes. And I'm going to do the same thing. So properties, general tab. This is P1F2 still. It's automatically going to pull in the tooltip from the other radio button that's in the same group here. And again, I'm just going to take off that no underscore two. So now you can see on the right, I've got my two groups. They each have a name and a tooltip that goes with it that's behind the scenes there, and then each radio button in the group. So that's how I know that's a group of form fields, and that lets the user pick one out of the group. All right, let's go down a little farther here because I want to talk about checkboxes. So in this case, I've got some checkboxes down here. I've got a group of 4 checkboxes, but I really have to ask myself, is this a group? Do I want people to be able to check one, or do I want them to be able to check multiples? And in this case, I'm not sure that's true in this scenario, but I'm going to say that they could check multiples, right? I might have my driver's license number and the last 4 of my social security that I want to enter onto this form. So again, I'm going to look at the first one here. I'm going to properties. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it P1F3, sticking with my naming conventions. And then I want to make sure that the tooltip is just for that checkbox. So in this case, it's IA, driver's license, number. So I'm going to add that number on there. It's missing. And I don't need to do anything on options here because it's either checked or not checked. That's the export value, and that comes across by default. So the only time I need to do individual label is for a group, one of a group. They have the group label and then they have individual labels. This one just has one label because it's not in a group, because users can check multiples out of this group. So I can do a similar thing here, F4, non-operator ID. Again, I'm just missing that number. A lot of times it cuts off the punctuation when it's automatically guessing. And in some cases, obviously, it's important here. So let's move on. This would be P1F5. Last 4 digits of social security number. I'm just making sure that's the same, and it looks like it is. And then finally, I've got my last one here. This is going to be P1F6. And I think that one's right as well. And so you can see here on the right in this tab order view, I'm kind of building my list here. And you can also see that once I've got all my forms named and my tooltips entered, I can easily make sure they're in the correct tab order. I'm actually going to insert some fields in between. So I probably should have changed those numbers a little bit to give myself some room there. But because we've got some text boxes here too. But you can see how easy it is to kind of view those and put them in the right order. So that's the reason I'm doing this. Again, more important if you have, 100 form fields on a page instead of 10 or 20, but it's just a convention and something that might make your life a little bit easier. For now, I'm just going to skip those text boxes because we've got a group of text boxes down here. Okay, so now I've got a regular kind of text box where someone just types. Again, I can go to properties. If I'm keeping my convention, I'll do P1F7 on that one. And I just want to make sure it has all the information, same text that appears on screen, first name, it looks like it found it and brought it over. And I can keep on going down. I think it didn't quite get all of my form fields in the right place, right? It didn't catch all of these. So sometimes I do need to add new form fields. And I can do that from the toolbar up here. I can kind of left clicked once to kind of pick it up, and then left click again to drop it. And you're going to see it's going to ask me for a field name. I'm just going to say this is page 2, field 1. I can go to all properties because remember that tooltip is important and required. This is what shows when you hover, and it's also what screen reader users hear. And we want to make sure we include any instructions so that, you know, a person doesn't gets the information that you want them to provide. Make that big. I can make it look how I want, change the styling, etc. All right. I'm going to actually delete some of these just for the sake of our demonstration here. So let me finish up, make sure that I've got these last few done on this page, and then we'll finish this document out. Oops, I already messed up. I'm already typing the wrong numbers. So let me go back and correct those. Back a page, didn't notice. Okay, so I've just got a handful of form fields, kind of a few of each type here. Didn't want to take the time to do the entire form, but now my check is to make sure everything's in the right tab order. So again, I've got my first question with the yes and no's, got my radio buttons, my text fields, and then I've just got one text field that I left on that last one. And I'm looking at this one again, and now that I'm zoomed out a little bit, I can see that this is actually my residential address versus my mailing address. So I'm just going to modify that tooltip, to add the word mailing. Just because we've got an address field here later, and just to make it a little clearer, and so that they each are kind of unique. Okay, so it looks like I've got my tab order correct. Everything's good. I'm going to save what I've done. Sometimes with a form field, it will ask you to save it with a new name. Or, uh-oh.
Anybody hear me? I can't tell if Melissa got pushed off or if the whole meet went down.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. We'll wait for Melissa to come back then.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Hopefully you can hear me again. I apologize. I'm not sure why that crashed my Teams.
Yep, we can hear you now, Melissa.
Okay, excellent. I'm sorry. My Teams just completely crashed when I hit my save button there in Acrobat. I need to reshare. Let me reshare my screen, and hopefully things go a little smoother. Okay, I think we're kind of where we left off. I hit save. As I mentioned, sometimes when you save after you've added form fields, it gives you kind of the opportunity to save it with a new name. Probably not a bad idea, just because, you know, for some reason it might be nice to have that fully remediated non-field version kind of in your back pocket. In case you need it for something or need to revert back to it or something changes, whatever. So I'm just going to save it here. I'm just going to call it test and save it there. So I've done everything with my forms, my tooltips, made sure my tab order was correct. I saved it. I'm going to close out of my prepare form mode. And I'm not quite done, because if I run my checker, you'll see that I've got some new errors here. I'm missing some tagged annotations, and I'm also missing tagged form fields. These are actually the same error. Solving it once will take care of both of these. So I added those form fields to the physical view and to the content layer, but they're not all tagged yet. So I still need to tag those form fields. And there's a few different ways to do that. The way that I find the easiest, you can draw boxes around them, but the way that I find the easiest is to simply go up to your main tags here and do find, options, find. I'm going to choose unmarked annotations. That's just one of the words that Acrobat uses for form fields. It calls them annotations. So I'm going to go ahead and hit find. And you're going to see that as I click tag element, it gives me the option to choose the tag type. These are going to be form. All of them, there's just one tag type for, checkboxes, radio buttons, whatever, doesn't matter. They're all just forms. I'm going to say okay. You'll notice it added it to my tag tree there. And I'm just going to keep going and do the same thing for the rest of them that it finds on this page. So I'm just hitting tag element, okay, tag element, okay. And I'm just going to do that until it's done and has found them all. We usually do this one page at a time. This document's pretty short, and there's just one more on the final page, so I could have done the whole document at once. But I find it easier to do it one at a time because I need to move them into the right place. And especially if you have a long form, it's easier to do that kind of in smaller groups. So I'm going to take this first form field, this first radio button. Let me make my tag tree a little zoomy there for you. I'm going to find where it goes. It's going to go inside this first list item. You can see I have the question, and then I have kind of my two answers. And my first form field, my radio button, is going to go right in between the question and the answer, just how I see it visually, right? So I read one, are you a citizen of the United States? Radio button, yes. Now I want the no radio button. So I'm going to grab that and bring it up as well. So each one of these list items is going to have the same structure. So let me do that for the next list item. Get it opened up. Actually going to grab them both at a time. Not sure what I did there. I just moved things in the wrong place, I think. Let me double check that. See what I did. I just reordered those accidentally. And I put the form fields not quite where I wanted them. So let's get them in here, and then I'm just going to move them to the right place. So question, form field, answer, form field, answer. So those are kind of nested in there. So it's a little messier, but the rest of them are going to be more kind of in the main area. So let's grab these 4 radio or check boxes. And the first one goes right after. Just trying to make it a little easier on myself and just kind of doing these in a group. So I've got question, checkbox, text. Yeah. That one actually goes up here. I didn't end up doing those text boxes just for the sake of time today, but we'll leave that in there. And then I've got the ones from the bottom of the page here. Oh, actually, these should be pretty easy because they're right together in the main area here under this heading. And check my reading order kind of in each section as I go to make sure I got it in the right place. And I've got one more, and that's the one that is on the first one on that second page. So again, I'm going to put my focus at the top, do options, find unmarked annotations. So just searching the page, tag it. It's going to remember that I chose form last time. So I can just say, okay, get this one in the right spot. Goes somewhere here. There we go. I'm going to save, and I'm going to rerun my check. And you can see that those unmarked annotations and untagged content errors are now gone. I've just got my regular manual checks. I do want to do one last reading order check just to make sure I didn't drop something in the wrong place, or get myself confused there. And it looks like it's okay. So it's kind of this multi-step process, but the order of the steps is important. So first, remediate the document. Second, add the form fields, make sure their properties like their tooltip is correct, get the reading or the tab order correct on that tab order pane on the right when I'm in prepare form mode. And then finally, at the very end, to tag those form fields and get them into the right place in the reading order. Does anybody have any questions about forms? I know it's been kind of a while since we did training, and seems like we've had a few over the last couple of months where people are updating a form or have a new form and have asked a question here and there. But I just wanted to kind of give you the full run through so that you get the whole picture of the order of the steps when you're creating a form.
So I had one a few
Go
days
ahead, Ann.
ago, and I watched the recording again, but I still had issues with the radio buttons. And
Okay.
it was something weird happening where I went through and I added the P, like the number
Names.
naming formatting like you used, and I gave them a unique name, but then when I went into the radio button options, it was flipping yes and no options when I would say, okay, yes, I want that option. And I don't know what's happening, but it's making a yes, a no, and a no, a yes. And it was this endless loop. And then I sent it to Matt.
Okay.
I don't know what you did, Matt, but it doesn't have the naming convention in there anymore. It says like yes to, which is different than what we talked about today.
Yeah.
Right?
It sounds like it to me, yes. I mean, I'm happy to we can take a look at it. I don't know if you have it, Ian, or if you said it's been kind of passed on somewhere else, but so when you say that they were flipping, let me just go back into the prepare form mode here. Do you mean like for the end user when they were using, like when you were testing out the form?
No,
No,
I think
okay. You mean here
was,
in the prepare form mode?
yeah, it was in the radio options, I think. And I don't have the version that I was working on because Matt fixed it. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, I worked on that one. Matt sent it my way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, no.
Remediate
Yeah,
documents.
so I love to see because that is weird because I don't know. I don't think I noticed that. So I'd love to fix that if.
Okay.
Should I send it your way, Melissa, or?
Yeah, you can either
Okay,
share
perfect.
your screen and we can look at it together, or you can.
No, I'd rather just. I learn better when I'm watching
Sure.
someone.
Let me. I'm going to put the accessibility email address here in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
And you can just send it there. And hopefully my computer will keep working. I'm going to close out of this. Let me stop sharing for a minute while I wait for my email to come in and get that one, and then I'll get that one shared once I've got it, and we can take a look and see if we can figure out what's happening with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry about that, Courtney. I didn't realize that was happening, so I'm glad we're checking this so that I can know for future.
Yeah, and if I remember, Ian, I remember I wasn't here last week, but a couple of weeks ago we looked at a document and we had a little bit of emails about it. It was a long one too, so I know, especially in a long one with a lot of fields, it can get hard to keep track of it and see what each form field is doing kind of on its own, right? Because
yeah. And I think generally too, our HHS is in the process of revising forms And we
Uh-huh.
really want to know what are the best practices of how we should be changing these.
Yeah.
We have very long and complex documents because it's a lot of financial info and stuff
For
like that.
sure.
Customers need to be very clear on how to fill out, because if they don't, there are lots
Yes.
of penalties for people if they fill out a form
Right.
incorrectly. And also consequences like being denied Medicaid or
Yeah,
SNAP or whatever.
absolutely.
My computer has froze. Hold on.
It's catching.
Yeah. Okay, we'll use Edge instead. No, true. Oh, I get some Outlook. Well, let me just see. Is it possible if I can add it to chat, the document, or would you prefer to get it by email?
You can add it to chat. I'm not sure I'll be able to access it. It depends where it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's on a internal Iowa network, then I probably won't be able to access it.
I have it up too if you want me to share.
Oh, could you send
sure.
that to her if you have this?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can
perfect.
share. I mean,
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
whichever.
if you just
No
want to
worries.
share, Anne, that's fine.
okay, hold on. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the form or the one where I noticed this happening was on this other information about people in your household,
Okay.
and go into the properties now, and it doesn't have the
Okay.
unique
Yeah. So it
names.
looks like this is a checkbox right now instead of a radio button. So at the very top of the properties box there, it says checkbox properties. So it looks like this is a checkbox, which is actually a different form field type. It's not just that it looks, like a checkbox. It's an actual different type of form field. So probably we want to replace it with radio buttons. If it really is you can pick one or the other and not both. So checkboxes are usually if you can choose multiples, and radio buttons are if you can choose one. So first we need to delete the checkboxes that are there. It's about, halfway there.
And
There
then
you
go
go.
over to replace it with radio button.
Yep. And you kind of pick it up by left clicking, and then you can kind of drop it. Yep, you got it.
And then do the same thing to go into properties. And
Can you zoom in a little bit, Anne, on that,
sorry,
on the physical view there in the middle? Sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you. Okay. So yes, so now we have our group. So you can go into properties for the first one.
And I need to click out of this radio button thing though, right? Because it's like
Oh,
escape.
yeah, it looks like you're still, maybe just hit escape on your keyboard. That might get rid of it.
And is it? So if I click on this, it's not going to add another radio button.
No, it will.
Right?
It looks like it's still holding it.
You can click the arrow up at the top by prepare a form to get out of that.
To close. That closes the whole tool. We actually need to go back into the tool. So if you go back to Alt or to Tools, there it is. Kind of in the middle there. I saw it down. Where did I see it? I saw it and now I can't see it. There we go.
It's okay. It's under, there you go.
Okay. So now if we take a look at the properties, so now we have radio button, which is good. And we want them to have the same group name so that they're tied together. So you can keep it group 16, that's fine. If you have something else you want to change it, you can. It's totally, again, a behind the scenes name.
So do each of the groups need to have a unique group name?
So
Probably,
on
right?
the general tab, when you have radio buttons, yes, the group name needs to be the same, and it has a single tooltip for the group.
Okay. Well, I don't know which groups already exist, I guess.
It won't add a group that already exists. So group 16 is probably, it's unique. It will automatically generate a unique one. So you don't, it's fine. You can leave it as that. But then we need to put the tooltip as the question for the group. So it's that, does anyone in your household, etc.
Okay, and then that was for yes. I go into the options then, and
Options, yep, and you'll
okay.
change that choice to yes. And then you can close the properties for that one. And then for the second one, properties, and go back to the general tab. Let's make sure. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure it's since you created them together, I figured they came together, but double check that. And then no. And then if you close, and then those form fields will need to be retagged, probably, maybe. Yeah, because we deleted the old ones and added new ones. So those will probably need to be retagged. Usually if you just update them, like change the tooltip, they won't need retagged, but this one they will because we created them newly.
And by retagging, is it the tagging the annotations?
Yes, exactly. That's kind of our final step, right? Once we've got all the form fields, how we want them, we've verified that they're in the right tab order, we've checked all the tooltips and everything is good, then we want to do the tagging kind of as the last step. So I don't know if there are other fields that maybe are in a similar scenario on this form that have, the checkbox groups instead of radio, or checkboxes instead of radio button groups. If so, you'd want to fix all of them kind of at once and then do the tagging at the end so that you don't want to have to go back and forth between prepare form and kind of regular mode. That's where it can get kind of messy.
Okay. So I think a tool that I'm thinking about developing that would be helpful, and I'll share this with everyone else too, of course, but the steps on how to develop a form like this high level, like create the document, remediate the document first, add the form fields, add the tooltips and what are tooltips with examples and stuff, and then go back and tag the annotations at the end. And can you remind again, what is the function of tagging annotations? What does that do?
That gets the newly created form fields into the tags tree. Because remember that if it's not in the tags tree, it's not conveyed to assistive technology.
Okay.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, if I think that'd be great if you want to share that document with the group, for sure. And just as a reminder, if you go back to the training slides too, it does have those steps on to start with the accessible PDF, go to prepare form, edit your fields, put in your, it does have those steps on the slides as well. So you could kind of use that in your document creation if that's helpful.
Yeah. Oh, and check the reading order. But that you have to do that before tagging the annotations, right?
You talking about the reading order or the tab order? They're kind of two different things. So I'm not sure which one you're asking about. The tab order is what we're seeing on the right now when we're in prepare forms mode. This is the tab order, and we want to put things into the correct order here. Once we've added all of our form fields and got them where we want them, we've got their properties set, then we want to make sure the tab order is correct here. And then we close out of here. Then we tag those annotations and put them in the right place in the tags tree, which is what determines the reading order.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I just noticed too, though, that I guess it was Shireen did the naming
Change the
convention.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so my work was through page 7, and then
I
I
see.
gave up when I reached this weird radio button
Uh-huh.
checkbox thing that I didn't know what was happening.
Okay. Yeah. So again, those are programmatic, they're behind the scenes. So it's really a preference up to you whether you want to go through and change those names or not to follow a pattern that looks like you started on previous pages. It doesn't hurt to do that. You can actually just change them right in that tab panel where you are too. Like you can just, I think if you like double click on it, it becomes editable and you can change the name there if you want to do that. But again, that is behind the scenes. What's important to remember is if you have a group of form fields that share the same tooltip, the same main question there, then they're going to have the same name. But again, you can kind of see that, like if you look down below where you've got that group of radio buttons for discharged veterans over in the tabs, the tab order pane on the right there. Yeah, you can see that. Well, there's the group 16 we just added, for example. So yeah, so you can change the names if you want to, but again, that's a behind the scenes thing that the user will never see. It's more of a convenience, perhaps, for whoever is managing the form to use some kind of convention like the P1F1 or whatever.
Okay, thanks.
It's totally arbitrary. It's just something, yeah, something that I've done when I have a document like the one we're looking at that you have here, where it's just a lot of form fields, right, on a page. It just helps me make sure that they're in the right order when I can kind of visualize that.
Okay, thank you. And then on a different type of table like this one, tell us about your income one. I'm thinking about for best practices too, since we're looking at changing these to hopefully make them easier to fill out and understand.
Okay.
Is this like this style recommended? Is this too complex? How should we make this better?
So I can't quite see the kind of right column there of the table. So tables are fine. Okay, yeah. Okay. So tables are fine. It looks like, I'm wondering in the column headers there that how much and how often, are those supposed to be text boxes? Because it looks like, those are the header text, but I'm not sure are they supposed to type something in the column headers?
No, I think that was just the Adobe identified those and it probably shouldn't.
Yeah, so those can be deleted probably. So like I said, it kind of does its best to add them, but it sometimes adds extras and it sometimes doesn't add ones you want. So yeah, so you can delete those. Okay, sorry. So now let me look at the table. Yeah, so tabular is fine. So again, you'll keep in mind that when you're in a table, the column and row headers kind of label the cells. And in this case, the contents of the cells, for the most part, are form fields. So you just want to make sure that you have the column and row header text in the tooltips for those cells. So whether the I'm looking at the first how much field just because that's the one I can see the best. So it might, or maybe the income type, I guess. So the tooltip for that first income type cell there, the second row, second column cell, should be name or person one income type, which is actually what the name is there. That's probably the tooltip too, I assume. But it, again, like the form fields themselves, the labels make those stand on their own. The tooltips make those stand on their own. So as long as the tooltips are complete and they know exactly basically which row they're on, what the header is for that row and which column, then it's fine to have form fields and tables. And often for a lot of data, that's the layout that makes the most sense. So I think this layout is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And for, yeah, the other, those are probably text boxes. Yeah, it looks like that might have done the same thing with a header in that table as well, with the amount paid each month. Like you might have some, yeah, some extra on that previous page, an extra field again.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as your tables are structured, which it looks like yours are, then that's actually a very clear way to put the content and also save a little space and make it easier visually as well.
Okay, thank
So since those are real tables, that's good. You know what I mean?
you.
Tabular data. Yeah, that looks good. So you might want to check. It looks like there might be a few more to delete, and then check your other radio button groups and make sure they're radio buttons, make sure they're grouped together. So again, the best practice is if you have one, if person can choose one choice out of many, you usually use a radio button or a drop down. I think I'm trying to think what if Acrobat calls it a drop down. And then if you can choose multiples, usually it's the check boxes that you'll use.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
This has less to do with accessibility, but just having created forms in the past. If you have radio buttons and you're testing the form and you select a radio button, there's no way to unselect it. Yeah, you have to kind of go back and add a third radio button, select it, delete it back. So just if you're having people test.
Easier way to clear
there
it.
is.
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Let me share my screen. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. So if I've tested this and I've checked my yes radio button, you can see my screen, right? Yeah. If I checked my yes there and then I'm like, oh, okay, yep, looks like it's working, but now I want that to go away. If I go to prepare form and I'm in this tab order panel here, under the more button, there's a clear form option about halfway down. So again, in the tab panel where it says more, I click on that and I clear form. And then if I close, you'll see that no longer is checked.
Amazing. That I'm glad I brought it up because that's even better.
Yes, I'm glad you did too. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up for sure, because that's not, I'm going to make a note to make sure I include that in future trainings, because it's kind of a weird scenario. Like it doesn't happen till it happens. And if it hasn't happened, you're like, what? Why would I need that? Right. But then once it happens, then you're like, oh crap, what do I do? So yeah, let me show that one more time. I've chosen something, I'm testing out my form. I maybe did a few things, maybe I typed something. And then I say, okay, everything looks good. It's working how I want it to work. Before I post this or share it, I'm going to go to prepare form. I'm going to click on more with the little kind of tools next to it. And I'm going to choose clear form. And when I close, you'll see now that everything I had put into the form, whether it's choosing a radio button or checking a checkbox or typing text, it's all gone. Clears it out. Back to default.
Thanks, that's great.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing it up. Great. All right, we've got a few minutes left, so I'm happy to answer other questions. They don't have to be forms related. They can be, but they don't have to be. I know kind of decided that forms was our topic today, but we can certainly look at other things as well in the next few minutes if we've got them, or if you have more form questions, happy to talk about those as well. All right, I'm going to remind you that, Susie, did you have something?
Yeah, I was sitting here talking. I realized I was still on mute. I do have a question. When you do that clear form, now let's say you posted this document on the internet and somebody completes the form. Do they need to clear the form as well? Or will it automatically clear? What will it stay as out on the internet after somebody fills it out?
Yes. So are they submitting it on, they're filling it out as a PDF form and submitting it online, or how are they? Typically the user kind of has their own copy of the form basically. So most users don't have Acrobat to begin with, so they're dealing with Acrobat Reader. So what they do is typically not saved unless they save that form separately. And it's like saving like a different copy, basically. They don't have access to change your original form, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
In most cases.
I just for some reason was thinking it was online, that it would be there, but yeah, you're right. They would download
Yeah, usually it kind of forces them to have their own version.
Before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Never mind.
Yeah, so it would just be a step before you post the form. And then once you posted it, you don't have to worry about it.
Yes. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. That can be a little confusing for sure. Okay, just as a reminder, if you've got any questions that come up between now and next Wednesday, go ahead and send them to that accessibility@msfw.com email address. And that way we can prep those and we can talk about them at next week's session. And also another reminder that we've got the first of our complex image training coming up next week, and it is on October the 7th, which I believe is Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we'll do complex images. On Wednesday, we'll have our regular weekly office hours. And feel free to send us any questions or problems you run into in the meantime.